Hey everyone, welcome to another video. Today we're going to talk about issue number 6 of The Phoenix from the Ashes, written by Stephanie Phillips and art by Alessandro Miracolo. But before we dive into the story, I want to ask you a favor. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and a comment to help the channel grow. This issue opens with a narration saying, "Our story began with fire and ash, and soon fire and ash consumed my soul, my every waking thought, and even my dreams." As Adani dropped to her knees, Pericus outstretched his hand and stated, "This is not a time for despair, for his family, the dark gods, have succeeded." Now while the dark deities surround the young girl, the voice of the Phoenix attempts to break through Pericus's control and say that it doesn't have to be this way, for she can still change and the Phoenix is willing to help if she allows her to. So with both hands outstretched, Pericus then went on to say, this was her choice and she had gotten everything she wanted, to which Jean replied by saying, "But you also know the answer, for it is buried deep down inside of her, and if Adani listened closely then she could hear it like she does." But at this point in Adani's life, she was too consumed with anger to listen to anything, so in a fit of rage she swung her sword at Jean, and right before she connected, in a twist, she awoke from a dream. Now, once awake, we immediately go into another narration, saying it wasn't real, but she could feel something deep within her, like the sensation of someone watching her. For she had faced the Phoenix and failed. Even worse than that, Jean Grey had entered her mind. And once in, Jean stated that she was creating a psychic barrier to protect her mind from the voices of everyone across the galaxy in need of help at that moment. So basically millions of voices were crying out in pain, which forced Adani to realize those were the very same voices that haunted Jean, and after cleaning her face, Adani was forced to face the part of herself that Jean had seen within her earlier in the story. The first thing the younger Adani asked was, what had she done to herself, and it wasn't too late to listen to the Phoenix, because as it stands, she could still help. But yet the rage within Adani was still too high to accept the truth. So with that playing out, we then transition over to Corvus's fleet approaching a planet named Aladna. And when they arrive, Corvus tells his fleet to prepare their weapons. But just as he was saying that, an unidentified object appeared on his radar out of nowhere, and it was moving extremely fast towards them. Now this was good news for Corvus, because instead of him looking for the Phoenix was coming straight for him. And at that moment he had all his vessels target the Phoenix. So with all hell about to break loose, we get another narration saying, if Jean hadn't fought Gore the God Butcher when he called her, if she hadn't freed the soul of the imprisoned Asgardians or faced off against the Black Order or listened to the rogue pirate, if Jean Grey had never prevented a black hole from collapsing, if she never left Earth, then Thanos would not have gained control of the Galactic Council. Because without Jean, he would not have used every available resource to immediately begin subjugating inhabited planets, but as we all know, one can't undo the past. And with that out there, we then see the Phoenix and Nova ripping a hole through Corvus's fleet with ease. Now this prompted one of Corvus's men to bring attention to Nova's involvement, but see, Corvus was too obsessed with fighting the Phoenix that he ordered his men to not get distracted by Nova. Because at this point in the game, all Corvus wanted was revenge for the Black Order. So with things heating up, our two heroes continue to wreck every craft before them while having a nice little conversation about codenames for Jean. And as soon as they were done, Corvus's fleet was left offline and in shambles. But no matter how great the victory was, Jean still had a bad feeling about things, because no matter how hard she tried to track Thanos and Pericus, it was basically impossible, akin to if they never existed. Now this was a problem, because that meant there was something out there that could block the Phoenix. And speaking of Thanos, on the next page we see the man himself walking side by side with Pericus as a gigantic glowing eye shines upon his chest. And as they walked, Pericus asked if this was how he imagined his reign. To which, Thanos replied by saying, he didn't imagine sharing the victory with Pericus, though now he admits that the alliance Pericus proposed has proven valuable. Especially since it comes with the Warlock's eye. And just as that was going down, Thanos stumbled upon a man begging for his life before a soldier. Now this prompted Thanos to tell the armed soldier that every choice one makes has a consequence. So the guard could spare the life of this pathetic being, who defied them, because his people could have surrendered, but instead, they chose violence. Now that was their choice, and these are their consequences. So now it is up to the guard to get to choose to follow orders or face the consequences himself. And like a loyal soldier, he did just that, and chose to follow orders. So with that done, Pericus went on to ask Thanos if that was his doing or the Warlock's eyes. To which Thanos stated that he provided the soldier with the logical reasoning needed to make the appropriate choice, which he would have done without the increased psychic abilities of the Warlock's eye. Now the eye just sped things along and enhanced his understanding of the situation. So with that explained, Pericus then went on to ask if Thanos was still unable to locate the Phoenix with the eye. Now to that question, Thanos responded by saying the Phoenix seems to be protected from the eye's abilities, the same way the eye's abilities protect him from her. And just as he said that, Corvus showed up defeated and informed his boss that Jean doesn't fight alone and is currently getting help from Nova. Now this was music to Thanos' ears, because Thanos knew he couldn't control the Phoenix with the eye, but Thanos knew he could control Nova. Now following that dark revelation, we then jump over to Jean making her way through a forest while psychically talking with Scott. And during their conversation, Cyclops brought up how he could mobilize the X-Men and Avengers to help the Phoenix prevent Thanos from taking over. But that was when Jean shot down the idea and said by the time they got there, the fight would have already been over. And then Jean went on to say that she should have never gone to space and she should have just stayed home with her people. But that was when Cyclops comforted her and said, as much as he would have loved to have her home, she is exactly where she needed to be. But no matter how Scott tried to soothe things over, Jean just doubled down and stated that they hated her and she could feel it, and some of it was natural, and some of it felt planted, like Thanos had found a way to make everyone feel exactly the way he wants them to. But regardless of which one it was still hatred and it was deep. So to avoid it, Jean had to go to the edge of the universe to find a planet that Thanos hadn't touched yet just to breathe for a moment, to try to regroup with Rich and wait for the others to arrive. So with that explained, Scott asked Jean if she could trust Nova, to which Jean replied by saying Thanos had turned the entire universe against her, so with limited options, she has no choice but to trust. And just as she said that, on the next page, Nova came flying in hot and attacked Jean. Now Jean wasn't fooled for a second, because she knew Thanos had found a way to get into Nova's head. So with great care, Jean held Nova at bay, and used just enough strength to put him on his ass. In fact, it was so successful that she managed to snap him out of Thanos' control. So with the battle over, Jean helps him up and tells him that something is giving Thanos augmented psychic abilities, which unfortunately will make their mission harder. But in Jean's eyes, nothing has changed, for she was dead set on attacking Thanos. Because her number one goal was to break his control over the Galactic Council and restore order to the galaxy. Now words were all good and stuff, but Nova really wanted to know how they were going to stop Thanos, his armada, his armies, his unlimited psychic potential, and his dark god ally. Now this was answered on the last page as Captain Marvel, Rocket Raccoon, and Lady Sif emerged from the sky, for Jean was not going in alone. And with that said, this issue of the Phoenix comes to an end. But anyway, down in the comment section below, let me know your thoughts about this issue and what predictions you could have moving forward. So with that established, I hope you enjoyed this video, and please don't forget to leave a like and a comment if you want to see more videos like this. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.